Good morning and welcome. Hi. And welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. My name is Elliot Nassif, and my pronouns are they, them, and theirs. And I am a member of the Celebrant team. And surprise, I am not Eileen Jackson. I am stepping in for her today as Celebrant. Here at First Unitarian, we are a community of children, youth, and adults bound not by creed, but by covenant. Our church is located on lands that are the traditional territory of the indigenous Iowa peoples, who called themselves Bokojay. Other than those of us descended from those indigenous peoples, we all arrived here from someplace else. As we enter this space, let us recommit to understanding the history of the land it occupies and to owning our part in the work of education, reparation, and healing. If you are here with children, feel free to keep them seated with you or take advantage of our We Worship space in the back of the auditorium. Programs for children from kindergarten through high school take place at 10:45 a.m. Our forum today at 11 takes place in Griffin Hall. Today's topic is What's Happening with Amos, led by Courtney Dufford. Please silence your cell phones during the service, and if you are joining us via Zoom, please make sure your mics are muted throughout the service. And we now have a spotlight from Sarah Chung.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Chung, and my pronouns are she, her, or they, them. Today, during our post-service fellowship time, there will be several groups with tables out in the gathering area, and each has something important to offer, so please stop by. There's Progressive Voices, Green Sanctuary, Adult Faith Formation, and even a bake sale to benefit our Covenant of UU Pagans chapter. There will also be, for the second week, a group comprised from the Social Justice Support Team, the Transgender Action Group, and other folks concerned about the wave of proposed bills in the state legislature that threaten our LGBTQIA friends, neighbors, and loved ones, with their biggest focus on transgender youth. Each week, we'll have information about select legislation and ways you can get involved to help make a difference from now until each of these bills is hopefully defeated. Other related opportunities to educate, celebrate, and advocate include the Trans Lives Festival coming up April 1st, for which we're currently seeking entries, volunteers, and planning committee members. You can sign up at the table if you're interested. The Transforming Hearts workshop series we plan to offer this spring, and if all goes well, even an in-person lobbying workshop yet this session. So keep an eye out for those opportunities too. We have been siding with love as a congregation for 25 years with our welcoming congregation work. And now more than ever, we need to get the UUs out of the pews, as they say, in advocacy for those within our beloved community and beyond. Thank you.
Our chalice lighting this morning comes from Determined Seed by Laura Wallace. As frozen earth holds the determined seed, this sacred space holds our weariness, our worry, our laughter, and our celebration. Let us bring seed and soul into the light of thought, the warmth of community, and the hope of love. Let us see together, hear together, love together. Let us worship. Our gathering song this morning is number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, from the Teal Hymnal, and we will sing through it 3 times. Oh, it's in the gray hymnal? The gray hymnal.
Is this on? Okay, cool. So we're going to do this as a round, but we're going to sing through it one time all together. And then this side, because you're here, we'll start it. And then over here, like, so at the word leaving, y'all will start your part. Okay.
Let me play it.
Yep. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, 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 whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, 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 whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
Our story for all ages is After the Fall, How Humpty Dumpty Got Back Up Again by Dan Santant. My name is Humpty Dumpty. This was my favorite spot, high up on the wall. I know it's an odd place for an egg to be, but I loved being close to the birds. Then one day, I fell. I'm sort of famous for that part. Folks called it the Great Fall, which sounds a little grand. It was just an accident, but it changed my life. Well, fortunately, all the king's men managed to put me back together again. Well, most of me. There were some parts that couldn't be healed with bandages and glue. After that day, I became afraid of heights. I was so scared that it kept me from enjoying some of my favorite things. I walked past the wall every day, and I would think about climbing that ladder again. I really missed the birds and being high above the city. But I could never do it because I knew that accidents can happen. I eventually settled for watching the birds from the ground. It wasn't the same, but it was better than nothing. Then one day, an idea flew by. Making paper planes was harder than I thought. It was easy to get cuts and scratches, but day after day, I kept trying and trying until I got it just right. My plane was perfect, and it flew like nothing could stop it. I hadn't felt that happy in a long time. It wasn't the same as being up in the sky with the birds, but it was close enough. Unfortunately, accidents happen. They always do. I almost walked away again, but then I thought about all the time I'd spent working on my plane and all the other things I'd missed. I decided I was going to climb that wall. But the higher I got, the more nervous I felt, and I didn't want to admit it, but I was terrified. I didn't look up, I didn't look down, I just kept climbing one step at a time until I was no longer afraid. Maybe now you won't think of me as that egg who was famous for falling. Hopefully, you'll remember me as the egg who got back up. and learned how to fly.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Sutton. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a member of the celebrant team and today's worship leader. The mission of First Unitarian Church is to grow ethically and spiritually, serve justly, and love radically. Our gifts of ourselves, our time, and our money allows us to live deeply into this mission. Half of today's morning offering goes to internal social justice programs of the church, and half to our Faith in Action partners, Hawthorne Hill, a program supporting unhoused families, and Let's Talk, working in the Des Moines Public Schools to teach conflict resolution. You may give it to the plate as it passes or online.
Thanks, Bruce. A church is not the building, but a community. As a community of human hands and human hearts, we come together to share our laughter and our tears, and to bear witness and minister to one another as we struggle with life's sorrows and celebrate life's joys. May we hold in our thoughts and prayers this week those in Turkey and Syria who are suffering so much as a result of the earthquakes. Let us share now together the names of anyone we know who could use some special care and attention. You may call the name out loud or type it into the chat. As we share these names, may the love of this community hold them all. May the light of our community shine unbroken places. I think I needed to give you time to share the names. Okay, now is the time to share the names. May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May the work of our hands and hearts support, aid, and comfort all those who hunger or thirst for food or water, justice, and freedom. May we never look away when we are needed. May those who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed. May those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. Now, together we light 3 candles, one for the joys and sorrows we have shared, one for the names we have spoken or written, and one last candle for all the joys and all of the sorrows which are deeply held but remain unspoken here today.
Our reading is an excerpt from Agnostic, a spirited manifesto by Leslie Hazelton. Those I know of deepest faith are not convinced. Perfect faith is a cruel and absurd oxymoron so far as they are concerned. Their minds are not made up, and their faith offers anything but smug self-satisfaction. Indeed, they have faith not only despite their doubts, but precisely because of them. They have made a commitment to faith, not in the assurance that they are right and that they have found or possess the truth, the consumerist approach to religion, but in the acknowledgement of how much cannot be known and how presumptuous it is to imagine that everything can be. They do not claim to have all the answers, or worse, the answer. Instead, they have a deep sense of unknowability, of the ineffable mystery of existence referred to in metaphysical shorthand as God. There is nothing restful about real faith. Where belief is the easy way out, a comfortable position for pious couch potatoes, faith demands an active engagement with uncertainty. Doubt, wrote playwright John Patrick Shanley in the introduction to his drama of the same name, requires more courage than conviction does, and more energy, because conviction is a resting place and doubt is infinite. It is a passionate exercise, an exercise of the heart, that is, as much as of the mind, not of one against the other, but of the two interwoven, each constantly challenging and thus enriching the other. As Graham Greene indicated in his novels of those struggling with faith, doubt is the heart of the matter. It is what keeps religion human, because when doubt is banished, faith is rendered moot. Abolish all doubt, and what is left is not faith, but absolute, heartless conviction, a blind and blinding refuge from both thought and humanity. You are certain that you possess the truth, inevitably offered with that uppercase T, and this certainly easily devolves into dogmatism and righteousness, a demonstrative, overweening pride in being so very right. You occupy this assumed truth, stake it out as your exclusive territory, and see all who live beyond its borders as a threat. Then you add insult to injury by loudly insisting that this, you and you alone, are, as fundamentalists say, the faithful. There's a stronger word for unfaithfulness, of course: betrayal. You betray your marital vows or your partner. You cravenly betray your principles, or worse, your country, which is when betrayal ramps up into treason. And when you betray God, then you get the volatile power of the word infidel, a favorite expletive of Muslim fundamentalists in particular, despite the irony that all Muslims were once condemned as infidels by the Christian fundamentalists known as Crusaders. The language of betrayal apparently loses nothing in its repetitiveness. What's really being betrayed here, however, is faith itself. To conflate faith with belief is to eviscerate faith, even though the two have been used as virtual synonyms for centuries. Maimonides' 13 principles of faith, for instance, each begin with, "I believe with perfect faith." Or do they? That's how the usual English translation has it, but what he actually wrote was, "Anima amin be'emuna shalema." I believe with perfect belief, a declaration that can be seen, depending on your point of view, either as pure sophistry or as an accurate reflection of the self-involvement of belief. Where belief tries to expel doubt, faith walks with it, offering no easy answers. Belief insists, while faith hopes and trusts. The one is demanded, the other freely given. And this freedom means that real faith is both difficult and stubborn. It involves an ongoing struggle, a continual questioning of what we think we know, a wrestling with issues and ideas. It goes hand in hand with doubt, in a never-ending conversation with it, and sometimes even in the conscious defiance of it. Now we'll hear from the UU Choir with the song "In Love with You" by Alec Powell. Happy Valentine's Day.
I have some words from J.E. Abernathy Jr. We affirm that love is our greatest purpose. Accepting one another is the truest form of faithful living. The search for truth is our constant star. We pledge our hearts, minds, and hands to challenge injustice with courage, to find hope in times of fear, and to live out our Unitarian Universalist values every day as a beloved community. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all that is sacred in life. Please join me in body or spirit in our next song, number 18, What Wondrous Love, from the Gray Hymnal. If you're here digitally, please remain muted and sing along at home. On tomorrow's painted wagon, in a yester-dreaming day, I rode to heaven never thinking I'd be back this way. Now I'm standing at your doorstep with my halo turning gray. Open up your gate, Mariana. Lay me down in the dark womb of your love. Mother, I sought the chosen people, but I found no one to comfort me. Lay me down in the dark womb of your love. Mother, I climbed the highest steeple. I found nothing to believe. When they called my faults against the wall, I took my place in line and put my trust in priestly men to break the ties that bind. But they're straight and narrow highways, just a row of billboard signs. Open up your gate, Mariana. So I set my feet to walking from the sidewalk to the sand in search of any saint or sage who knew the master plan. I wandered every back road in that broken, promised land. Open up your gate, Mariana. As lightning burns these bridges under, smoke will surely rise as the fables of my innocence blow lazy through the skies. When timeless truths reveal themselves as little more than lies, open up your gate, Mariana. Sticks and stones might break this body, and words might wound my soul, and phantom visions fly me to where the faithful fear to go. But when this story's over and my sun is sinking low, open up your gate, Mariana. Mother, I climbed the holy mountain. I found nothing to believe. These are the lyrics from the folk ballad, Mother, I Climbed by Tracy Grammer. We hear an allegory told by a young woman who returned home from an intense journey deep into the institutions of her faith, the church, the clergy, the scholars, the devoted, to see truth with a capital T laid before her and to know with conviction where to orient her heart. As a person who has reset my own faith once or twice before, I find the song to be deeply touching and provocative. I have always thought spiritual music was intended for worship, the ecstatically chant of praise, joy, salvation, and love. How strange it was to be moved by a lamentation of this lonely, empty-handed journey, a journey, I am sure, that so many of us in this room have endured before. The Latin root of the word religion means binding. This makes doubt difficult to discuss in religious circles due to the fear of the individual untethering themselves from God. Some religious leaders acknowledge doubt as an inevitable and normal part of faith. From Abraham to Moses to the disciple Thomas, many biblical figures experience hesitations about God, Jesus, and his promises. But for some religious perspectives, doubt is tolerated so long as it is dealt with. Any skepticism is viewed as a test of truth and trust between the individual and their faith. Are you questioning because you've been misled by a heretic's teachings? Has the devil infected your mind? Are you confused because you neglected your scripture and attending church? Are you relying on your personal thoughts and feelings rather than the facts of the written word? Religious leaders may tolerate doubt, but caution the path that the person takes with it. Use your doubt to ask curious questions and to strengthen your faith, they encourage, but if you obsess over your thoughts for too long, you may be tempted into the sin of choosing unbelief. Doubt may be a part of your faith, but unbelief cannot. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 says sternly, "Trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." From what I could see in these lyrics, this woman never faltered once in her journey. She tirelessly sought comfort, forgiveness, enlightenment from people she was told would be wise, chosen, and righteous. And after meeting them, she ended up lost, alone, and betrayed. It was her own experience that painfully wrought the falsehoods of that religion from her spirit and freed her from a prison that she lovingly and devotedly called home. In the aftermath of her crisis, she courageously prays for love and mercy from one remaining holy figure that I think she still trusts, Mother Mary, to open to her gate, to let her in, to hold this tired, weeping soul. And I wonder, is this a desperate final cry for something to finally believe, or a surrender to love and mercy, a missing piece from the narrator's quest? I want you to think for a moment of how you came through our doors in the first place. Were you once like this young woman who climbed a holy mountain, found nothing to believe, and somehow ended up wandering here? How has doubt allowed you to see what you truly desire, what you hope to accomplish? How has fear diverted you from living a new question? Were you raised to celebrate doubt or hide it? How do you wrestle with it? How much of who you are and where you are right now is because of your doubts? So as for me, I grew up secular. Once in a while, I visited church with friends and family. Those Sundays, it was like a whole nother world had opened up. I was enchanted by the stained glass pictures, the fancy clothes, the billowing organ, the swooning sermons and the stories. Noah and the flood and the animals and the rainbow at the end, Moses and the Pharaoh and the Israelites in the land of milk and honey, the compassionate nativity story, the magic and mercy and sacrifice of Jesus. It was so comforting to be wrapped up in the warm arms of God on those few religious Sunday mornings. While I enjoyed the warm fuzzies of religious occasions, my mom divulged that I was baptized when I was a baby, to appease my grandparents. And that was that. I was saved. I was destined for heaven no matter what. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Appreciate that. But as I got older, I yearned for something to do while I was waiting for the afterlife. To gather wisdom and knowledge. By the time I was 13 or so, my mom sensed my curiosity, so she sat me down and said, "Now, Catherine, you can go to whatever church you want, you can believe whatever you'd like, just don't break my heart and become a Baptist." I'm looking at her like, "Why not, Mom? They're Baptists in our family." And she says, "Because they say that if you don't believe in God, you go to hell." Now, of course, we know that my mom's idea here about Baptists isn't accurate. There are plenty more groups that claim salvation for themselves and not for others, but the message was clear. Avoid associating with those who claim a narrow path to heaven or hell. I didn't think Mom was trying to teach me about what religion was true or not. Instead, she was guiding me to choose a religious community, if I ever did choose one, that was more compassionate and tolerant. In high school, all my friends were enthusiastic, evangelical Christians. One of my friends invited me to an overnight at her church, where there would be lots of fun, games, pizza. And at around 1 a.m., when we were all sedated, sweaty, overstuffed with treats, we gathered into a hall where the lights were dimmed and everything went quiet. And the youth pastor emerged out of nowhere and started speaking to us. And I can't remember if it was 10 minutes later or 30 minutes later, but I remember that my sleepy head was like bowed toward the ground, and I raised my hand up like this. With the others, I was just like woozily consenting to accept Jesus into my heart. And my friend who was there whisked me off into the pastor's office when the sermon was over. And I was thinking to myself, oh, finally, here was the opportunity I was waiting for. I can now get to God and choose my own salvation instead of relying on the insurance of my baptism as a baby. Just a few minutes with the pastor, and I'll be all set. In the room was someone else I went to school with, a boy named Thomas. The pastor turned to Thomas first. It turns out that Thomas wasn't in the room to be saved or to quickly accept things, but to ask the pastor skeptical questions about the fundamental events of the Bible, like, how could the world be populated from just one man and one woman? Meanwhile, my hesitations and misgivings were starting to sprout in my head, but my soul was on the line, so I kept quiet as Thomas and the pastor continued. Then the next thing came from Thomas. He grew up with Thai Buddhism and was bullied by Christian kids, not only for his religion, but his race too. Thomas pressed the pastor about Christianity and how it could produce kids who are self-righteous and intolerant. When the pastor tried to apologize on behalf of the kids, he too began to get a little curious about Thomas's background, asking him where he was from, where his parents were from, but no, where are you really from? The air in the room grew really tense as Thomas tried to move things into the next topic. He said, "So I'm gay, and that is not going to change. Would your church accept that about me?" And the pastor spoke really slowly. He was choosing every word. "Well, we have a man here who struggles with the sin of homosexuality, but we have been helping him to overcome it." By this point, Thomas appeared really deflated, hurt, and discouraged, and his questions quieted. The pastor swiveled in his chair to me. In the office, I was of two minds. I was patiently waiting for the pastor's attention, but I was also experiencing this storm of apprehension in my head. My insides were saying, "This isn't for you. Get out of here. What happened just now, that didn't feel right." But the pastor just starts talking at me for a few minutes, and then next thing I know, he hands me a copy of the New Testament. I take it in my hands, and the other part of me was thinking to myself, finally, I didn't have to think for myself anymore. The instruction manual to get to God was in my hands. My dear friend was sitting on my left, doubting Thomas on the right. This annoying voice, though, nags on and on. Are you seriously going to do this? The pastor asks me some simple questions about whether I believed in God, Jesus, and his son, and belief in him is the only way to heaven, yada, yada, to which I naively and obediently say, yes. To this day, I remember vividly the shameful and selfish place I was in that night, that I didn't stand up for Thomas in any way. I claimed my place to heaven in the aftermath of this bizarre series of racist and homophobic comments incurred onto somebody I knew and somebody I liked. I admire Thomas's brave skepticism, confidence, and wit. Meanwhile, I just shoved my worries down my stomach so I could be awarded God's grace. And in fact, I thought that was the better choice to make. For a few months, I tried to suppress my doubts and fears and become a good Christian. After reading the New Testament, I read our entire family Bible from Genesis to Revelations. Taking in everything at face value, I was moved to tears by the loving, poetic verses which anchored my newfound conviction. But then all those boring, prejudiced, absurd, abusive, and confounding parts made me wonder if any of this could have been real in the first place. And then I thought, is this like the actual real truth? Like the final word on love, purpose, and meaning? The Quaker pastor Philip Gulley writes in his book, Unlearning God, that infallibility is at its heart not the defense of truth, but the protection of ignorance. Later on, Gulley says, infallibility simply does not permit the church to keep pace with enlightenment and discovery. It drapes us in the garb of our spiritual infancy. And even as we outgrow it, it forbids us from donning a garment more fitting, saying it is God's preference that we remain as we always have been. When we question those preferences of God, we are accused of doubt and heresy, the twin signs of the enlightened and thoughtful everywhere, and are admonished to return to the truth. Ultimately, what infallibility demands is our steadfast refusal to study matters more closely, more critically, lest the wizard behind the curtain be revealed and we discover that he had nothing to do with God and everything to do with his own power. Rewiring myself to ignore my own experience and sense of right and wrong, then to then follow God was really difficult. At some point, I noticed my empathy, my thoughts, my emotions changing, was more judgmental of others. It pained me to suddenly see that my non-believing family and friends were now lost souls to me, that they would burn in hell forever because they wouldn't take the same path to salvation as me. When I realized heaven would be a lonely place, I let Christianity go. As I met people of varying faiths in college, I still wanted to believe in something, to prove myself as a good person because God was in my life somehow. The best I could come up with was the old spiritual but not religious alignment. It wasn't until I was surprised to meet a few people who were kind and happened to be atheists that I realized you could be good without God. And so I began to consider atheism for the first time. I dove down the New Atheist rabbit hole on the web, where Richard Dawkins debated creationists, Sam Harris lectured on the immorality of religion. I read The God Delusion in like 3 or 4 days. While I recognize that atheism itself doesn't hold a system of values and ethics, the spokespeople for it certainly did. And they made it easy for me to channel all my dissatisfaction and disagreement with religion into self-righteous anger. Anger at all the injustices, hatred, destruction, oppression, waste, and selfishness we have seen emerge in the name of religion for ages and ages. And so I emerged as an angry atheist. Just like my conversion to Christianity made me wary of the non-believing world, my newfound atheism made me wary of the believing world. The atheism I absorbed lacked a focus on exploring and making meaning, and instead appeared to have a stronger interest in criticizing religious belief in institutions. For both Christianity and atheism, I wonder, thinking back, what if I had just spent more time with either of them? Maybe a few more months or years, what would I have become instead? Could I have reached the certainties that they claimed and gain the clarity I had long sought? It just turns out that my mind was still full of questions and some naive impatience. I simply let them go, and time went on. Philip Gulley, the Quaker pastor I mentioned a few moments earlier, writes more in Unlearning God that time provides a richer understanding because life and truth aren't always easy. In the summer of 2015, I stepped into First Unitarian for the first time, still seeking a community of like-minded people, actively pursuing spiritual growth. My first UU service ever happened to be one of our quirky summer services. Our minister wasn't behind the pulpit, but instead, a young person from our congregation was, speaking about the spiritual teaching of Star Wars. I was blown away that a place like this could exist to allow young people to not just participate, but lead services and speak their own truth. This is what religion can be. This is what can go on in a church, and they call it worship. To me, this seems suitable for what I've always wanted, a loving community that pushes the usual expectations of what a people of faith can be. One thing I love about Unitarian Universalism is that we affirm and promote strong values and beliefs in our 7 principles, but none of them claim to be infallible, unshakable, or dogmatic. None of them are one-size-fits-all clothing meant to wear for a lifetime. These words are not meant to be memorized or recited as articles of faith, but rather they are a calling for our many hands to carry forth light, hope, and justice. Our living tradition allows us to explore the landscape of these principles through science, poetry, scripture, personal experience, and so much more to grow. The 3rd and 4th principles have always resonated with me. The 3rd says, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. And the 4th says, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. They encourage us to evolve, celebrate, and respect not only our personal convictions, but also our misgivings, our fears, and our struggles. Unitarian Universalism is not founded on answers, nor do we provide abject permission to just wallow in fear, adversarial doubt, or cynical skepticism. Instead, UU Reverend Page says of the 4th principle, as a faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism makes sacred the right and responsibility to engage in this free and responsible quest as an act of religious devotion. Institutionally, we have left open the questions of what truth and meaning are, acknowledging that mindful people will, in every age, discover new insights. When we choose Unitarian Universalism to be our guide for spirituality, ethics, and justice, we also take on the gifts, burdens, and unanswered questions of making a meaningful life in the face of the wonder, mystery, absurdity, and unfairness in this whole place. And those 7 principles, just because they don't mention God, heaven, or hell, that doesn't make them easier to accomplish or have faith in. The nature of our work in seeking peace and justice forces us to wrestle with uncertainty, playing a role in either disrupting or encouraging what we hope to accomplish. Is this course of action going to create the change that we want to see? When we speak truth to power, what are the chances that they will listen to and act alongside us? Will this person or group be the right fit to lead us to where we want to go? Is this undertaking worth it? Are we helping? Am I the right person to contribute? And am I enough? Am I being enough right here, right now? The medieval Jewish scholar and philosopher Maimonides said, "Teach your tongue to say, 'I don't know,' and ye shall progress." Saying those 3 small words to ourselves highlights our frailty, our humanity, and humility, yes, but they also have the power to make us receptive to creativity, outside knowledge, and insight. to see more of what is possible, what can be seized, what can be made new. Then we can become a mindful people in this age to discover new ideas and move forward. We can become what the people of the past have hoped for and the people of the future to look back to for wisdom if we take action. We, as a liberal-minded faith, have the power through our visibility and activity to educate and advocate against age-old bigoted ideas, to change minds, to sow seeds of doubt that can dismantle systems of intolerance, harm, and injustice, to say to the world, it doesn't have to be this way anymore. Let's try something else. To imagine and promote building systems of fairness, restoration, equity, and love, to uplift those from despair, fear, and pain, to turn on the light in every searching soul that comes through our doors with the words, you are loved, you matter, you are whole, you belong in this world. Why not build a faith pointing us to the greater possibilities of love, of hope, of justice? Why not do a little bit of doubting every day, commit your own personal heresies? Why not turn over a few more stones? Why not ponder the mystery and wonder of your existence? Why not look upon another with kind, curious eyes? Why not sing aloud, I don't know, like an operatic aria? Why not take a leap of doubt and see what you'll find? I want to leave you with these wise words by UU Reverend Dr. Michael A. Schuler. Cherish your doubts, for doubt is the servant of truth. Question your convictions, for beliefs too tightly held strangle the mind and its natural wisdom. Suspect all certitudes, for the world whirls on, nothing abides. Yet in our inner rooms full of doubt, inquiry, and suspicion, let a corner be reserved for trust. For without trust, there is no space for communities to gather or for friendships to be forged. Indeed, this is the small corner where we connect and reconnect with each other. Please join me in singing hymn number 131 from the Great Hymnal, Love Will Guide Us. See. I think we're doing our benediction now? Yes. Great. These are words from Eric Williams. We all emerge from, dwell within, and are transformed by, and are called back to love. May your mind be humbled before this mystery. May your heart grow to be hopeful by it. May you be sustained by this love always.